in the photo?
Yeah, I got Dylan in there. Hey, Dylan. How you doing, buddy?
Are you gonna do like real wood or get lit?
And so in order to do, and I'm going to make this as brief as I possibly can because you're standing. And I want to start right away with Gayle's life. And I know Rick is prepared to say some things. And so if any of the rest of you are, why don't you go first, Rick, and prime any pumps that are there to be primed. And if you have even a brief memory, try to keep it brief though, of Gayle. And anything that expresses her personality, things that are just that other people would recognize, or even if you have a unique memory that they might not recognize, as long as it's, you know, appropriate. Go ahead and share. So, Rick, what would you want to say about your mom?
There's a lot of memories, but what keeps coming to mind is the times that we went down to Claylock, down to smelt fishing, and we have to walk down these long trails to get down to the beach where the driftwood was. And on one occasion, Mom had to go back up to the car to get something, and when she was up to the car, there was somebody taking the toolbox out of our station wagon. And she, I don't know what she yelled exactly, Bob might know the words, but she, you know, feisty person that she is, she just went right at him and said, "Put that toolbox down," and scared the person off. And you know, that was pretty much it. But came back down, told the story, I guess, and we just kept on doing our thing. But that was a lot of fun, doing those types of adventures.
Well, my sister was 11 years older than I, and we lived in such a small house. It was probably 900 square feet, and we shared a bedroom. So I slept on the top bunk, and she slept on the bottom. So because there was 11 years difference, you know, I was teasing her and everything, and she'd have her friends come over, and our grandmother's piano was in my parents' bedroom, and this man, his name was Larry Folger, he would play the piano so beautifully, and of course I was antagonizing him the whole time, and then I'd run to the bathroom and lock myself in. And then my sister had a really pretty singing voice, so I believe she might have sang in the choir at Summit Avenue Presbyterian Church, but her singer that she had a mad crush on was Mary Olanza, who is an opera singer, so I'd have to hear that music all the time, and it was horrible. And she got a picture of him in the mail that was signed. Well, she thought it was signed by him, and she was just on cloud nine, and she'd try to sing opera and everything, and I hated it, but I used to tease her about that. But I remember her living, after she got out of the sanitarium, she was gone for 18 months, and when she came back, she spent most of her time at her girlfriend's house, and trying to make up for the year and a half she lost. And she also belonged to the Saddle Club, and she rode her girlfriend's horse with her horse, and my sister didn't have a horse, she just shared a horse. But she was quite a character, you know. I really enjoyed her. We were complete opposites, but she put up with her little sister driving her crazy. And I remember one time we were in Manette, and she was driving my dad's brand new car, and her girlfriend had the radio on real loud, and they were talking. She goes through a stop sign and hits a doctor. And my dad really didn't get that upset with her. And I couldn't understand that, because when I put a little dent on his Biscayne, he'd never let me drive the car again. But my sister, she was able to drive after that. So I always kind of resented. I thought he favored her, but who knows. But we had a lot of good times down at Claylock and clam digging and smelting and fishing on Crest. Remember when Michael and I got so sick out on the ocean, and Mike got this big fish on, and he started getting sick, and then I got the fish in, and then I got sick, and my sister never got sick through the whole ordeal, and she had, 3 other boys to take care of, and we were out on that water for about 6 hours, and we had a lot
I never
of fun
caught a
times.
fish.
Any others?
I do. I'm here because she was a good friend to me. I met her through Brian, and we laughed and smiled a lot, and then she got ill, and I watched the disease take it, her smiles and laughter from her. And I have a Michael Landon poem I love to say at funerals, and it goes, remember me with smiles and laughter, for that's how I remember you all. If you can only remember me with tears, then don't remember me at all. And I love that. I think her memories of us would be us smiling and laughing together. So that's what I wanted to say.
But thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
really nice.
I love Gayle.
I also, wrote a poem for Gayle. I didn't know her but for a short period, but it's called Fading Away. A heart of glass shattered by eternal light, a war that I could not fight. In a bed of darkness, I find my peace. I'm looking for some kind of release. Tears of dismay roll down your face. Cry no more, for there is no pain. In my heart, you'll always remain. No more blood running through my veins. No more feelings of going insane. Do not call my name, for I will not awaken. For my last breath has just been taken.
That's really good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you very much.
If she was here, she'd have something to say.
Yeah. She'd be outspoken, right?
Yes, yeah. Well, she's kind of quiet, but she wasn't quiet in her deeds.
Not if you took her toolbox.
Is that a naughty pine box?
Yes.
She's a little naughty.
Any other members?
Sure. I only met my grandmother once, but it was a very special occasion, and I sat down and watched some basketball with Gayle, and she got up out of her armchair and came over and sat next to me, and we just started chatting, and it was a very beautiful moment, and it's a moment I'll never forget.
Did she like basketball, Rook?
Yeah, I think she did. That's another memory of her and Grandma. Went to Hawaii a couple times when we played basketball over there, and they just had a whale of a time. I mean, just we went twice, when I was a sophomore, then I was a senior, so that in between that they were just planning what they would do next time they would go. Yeah, she'd love to travel and be adventuresome.
I know my mom loved Liberace, and when she was at one of those ball games, she met him in a gift shop, and of course she went up to him and said something to him, and then I couldn't believe this when Gayle and her came back from Hawaii. She went to the Don Ho show, and she says, you won't believe this, and she shows me this picture. I guess Don Ho gets all these women up on the stage, and she shows me this picture of Don Ho kissing my mother on the lips, and I just could not believe what I was seeing. But I guess he used to kiss the women like that, and they did have a wild time when they were there. A good time. Yeah.
Don Ho and Mary Alonza and
Liberace.
Liberace. Well, it'll be good and healthy if you can to continue to share memories, to continue to even ask yourself, I didn't feel like I could do it adequately, and so I'm going to leave it to you. Sometimes if I feel like I know the person really well, what I want to do is and ask myself, what was the meaning of their life as far as I could find? One guy dropped dead a number of years ago while he was doing exercise biking, and he was always taking care of everybody. He was an engineer, and he would get jobs for his brother. He would prepare his wife for any financial reversals. She was well taken care of. He was always looking for somebody to take care of, and always figuring out the best solution for whatever they were facing. I don't feel like I know Gayle quite well enough to be able to summarize her life and to say this is centrally what it stood for. But I think it's good to ask ourselves that question, and maybe to follow that up with, how do I want to be remembered? What do I want on my tombstone? And to ask the question of meaning of our lives, but at least we can say Gayle led a rich life, and that she was God's gift, especially to her boys and to her family. Every good gift comes from God, and Gayle McCotter was a good gift. I want to now talk just a bit about hope, because it seems to me like we act oftentimes, I know I do, as if we'll never die. And that just, times like this finally bring us out of that unreality to say, no, wait a minute, I'm going to die too. And sometimes it takes an event like this to get a little bit bigger perspective. So we not only act as if we'll live forever when we won't, but so many people in our culture, I guess the big word for it is, have this dystopian view of life, but that's too big a word for me, is this dark, moody, evil climate. Two of our sons, we were just together hiking last week, and one of them is into horror movies and the other one's into sci-fi, and I thought by the time I got done walking with them and heard about all these movies, I felt like I needed some kind of detergent dip or something. But our society is so fascinated with dark stuff about the future. I feel like what we need to be reminded of is the hope. We need to know what God says to draw hope from. So I want to read a passage. Now when I read it, I want you, because it's pretty fantastic. It's pretty wild what he says in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. So I want you to put it against the backdrop of all these other wild things. My kids are always telling me, Dad, you need to watch The Expanse. You need to watch Travelers. You need to watch all these, usually streaming, but these movies. And I've watched a few, but my money is in 1 Thessalonians 4 as opposed to those. Brothers, now this is Paul's writing to the Thessalonian church, a Greek church, and Thessalonica is still in Greece. I think they call it something different, but I can't remember. But he was writing to them because the question came up, what about people who die? Because they assumed Jesus would come back any minute. And the people that have died, are they gone forever? Will they not participate in Jesus' return? And so he's trying to comfort them with that fear, against that fear. Brothers and sisters, we do not want you to be uninformed about those who sleep in death. So he's talking about their ignorance. He didn't want them to be ignorant. And he says, so that you do not grieve like the rest of mankind who have no hope. He didn't want them to be hopeless. So he's arguing against ignorance and hopelessness, which I think are words we need today. it's not like we're never ignorant and never hopeless. He says, so what does he think will answer ignorance and hopelessness? For we believe that Jesus died and rose again, and so we believe that God will bring with Jesus those who have fallen asleep in him. Now for Paul, that was a euphemism. Fallen asleep was code for died. He just didn't see, that was a phrase he used. According to the Lord's word, we tell you that we who are still alive, who are left until the coming of the Lord, will certainly not precede those who have fallen asleep. Don't worry about your loved ones that have died. We won't go before them with them left behind, never to participate in heaven. For the Lord himself will come down from heaven. Now this is the kind of wild part. But put it against the backdrop, you see far wilder things and sometimes believe them. For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet call of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. Means Gayle's not going to be left behind. After that, we who are still alive and are left will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And so we will be with the Lord forever. Therefore, encourage one another with these words. So to argue against their ignorance potential and their hopelessness, he says you need to be clear your loved ones who have died will be taken care of. Even if they're scattered in the ocean, serving in the Navy. God can put together the molecules that he brought together the first time. He can do it a second time. He's well able to do that. And we will join them and be with them forever with the Lord. Now I think, just want to add a little bit at the end here. I think that if Gayle were able to speak to us right now, she would say something in her own words, but I'm going to paraphrase. There are two plans. There's the do plan and the done plan. The do plan says you gotta work hard all your life to do enough good, and my dad used to believe this until he was older, and hope that your good outweighs your bad. And then you may get there. The problem with that plan is Jesus very clearly said, well, you know, the difficulty with the do plan is you got to be perfect, and nobody's in that boat. Nobody's going to make it based on do. The other plan is the only one we're left with then, and that's the done plan. And I think Gayle would say what that consists of, in her own words, is putting your trust in Jesus, that his death paid for your lack of goodness. And if that's the case, you transfer your trust from yourself, because usually we trust ourselves or our parents or our heritage or our religion or our church or something. If you transfer that trust from all those things to make you good enough to get you in that great gathering when Jesus returns, you transfer your trust to Jesus and say, if his death doesn't do it, I'm really in trouble. I have all of my money. It's a bet. It's not a gamble, but it's a bet that Jesus' death will pay for all of your lack of goodness. That's what I believe Gayle would say in some form today. So the way you can have hope is Paul, and he says, I heard it from the Lord, his promise that Jesus will return for his people. And the way you access that is to give up the do plan and say, I'm tired of trying to be good enough. I can't be good enough. Not that you should stop being good, but you're good because of what he's done for you, because of the done plan. And so if that's the case, you have every right to hope, to not be hopeless. There's no reason to have to be hopeless, to have hope in Jesus' return. That's where the hope is. And so today we are remembering Gayle with fondness, with grief, an interesting mixture, but we're also doing it not, like Paul said, not as people who have no hope, but as people who know where their hope is. Not that we're never going to die, that's not our hope. That we're going to see Gayle again when Jesus returns. Okay, that's all I need to say, I feel like, and I just want to pray and ask God's blessing on us and thank Him for Gayle.
My sister and I went to